This is a full story. Kitten wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. On the 20th day after my girlfriend passed away, I finally saw her again. She didn't know she was dead. If I wanted to continue being with her, I had to hide the truth from her. On the screen, Hailey seemed hesitant to speak. She looked haggard, and it was clear she had been crying. It had been a full 20 days since her death. To keep her from realizing the cruel fact that she was already dead, I carefully considered how to start the conversation. So, I stayed silent, staring at her. She must have sensed my unnatural behavior. "Rocky, are you okay?" I needed to come up with a reasonable excuse for my absence. Forcing a smile, I said, "Hailey, I'm really sorry. I went on a business trip in a hurry and didn't get a chance to tell you. It seems we won't be able to see each other for a while." She was a bit surprised at first, then forced to smile herself. "It's okay. I saw on the website where you post your novels that they're organizing a creators conference in the South. I can take care of myself." Looking at the background on the screen, Hailey was in her own home, which was cluttered and messy. When the person you've been longing for day and night reappears, it's strange to feel an inexplicable sense of awkwardness. I didn't know what to say to her. After a few seconds of silence, I could only ask about her daily life. "What are you busy with now?" It sounded more like a question between distant acquaintances than one between a couple in love. Fortunately, my question seemed to spark her interest. "You know, I'm a back-end developer. Recently, I've taken on a particularly intriguing project. It's outsourced by the Academy of Sciences, a project about brain-computer interfaces. My job is to analyze and extract meaning from brainwaves. It's very challenging." My heart sank. Could it be that deep down, she knew she was dead, and that's why she created this task for herself? She continued, "Do you know how revolutionary this product could be? In the future, you could write novels without even needing a keyboard." Thankfully, she was just thinking about me, not realizing the truth of her death, or trying to resurrect her own consciousness. To stay in character and avoid arousing her suspicion, I forced myself to joke, "That's amazing. Once the project is complete, I'll be the first to try it out. And as a tester, I could give you direct feedback on any bugs, right? There's nothing better than lying in bed and chatting about work, though I wonder, would inserting electrodes hurt?" Hailey laughed. "You wish. I heard the current progress requires removing the entire brain. It's not like the Matrix, where they just drill a hole in the neck." Although she was joking, her smile seemed forced. I started to worry. Her expression was clearly unnatural. Could it be that her subconscious had some awareness of the truth? I reminded myself again. I had to hide this from her at all costs. She must never realize she was already dead. In fact, I regretted signing that so-called agreement. From the moment I saw Hailey on the screen again, I regretted it deeply. Here's what happened. Hailey and I had once signed a directed body donation agreement, with the recipient being the Academy of Sciences. According to the agreement, after our deaths, our bodies would be provided for their research on human-machine interaction. Simply put, the Academy aimed to develop technology, bridging the gap between the human body and information storage, something similar to a brain-computer interface. However, due to ethical restrictions, they could only conduct research using deceased bodies. This stage, they had managed to create a method for the living to communicate with deceased loved ones. 20 days ago, Hailey was driving us to the countryside for a trip when we got into a car accident. In emergencies, drivers often instinctively protect themselves, which usually means the passenger in the front seat bears the greater risk of death. But it was Hailey who died, and I was left with a fractured right leg. 3 days after I was discharged from the hospital, technicians from the Academy brought a large black box into my apartment. It resembled a refrigerator, except the black box had a 17-inch screen on the front and couldn't be opened. Other than that, it looked like an oversized fridge. The technicians explained that the technology was still immature, which was why the box was so large and consumed a lot of power. But no worries, they would cover the high electricity bills. They also mentioned that I could have around 40 minutes of conversation daily. Any longer was beyond the current technological capabilities. Furthermore, due to the limitations of the technology, the memories transferred to the storage chip were incomplete, and some key details might be missing or even incorrect. I didn't have the energy to listen to the rest. This was already the 20th day since Hailey passed. All I wanted was to see her again immediately. As soon as they left, I turned on the screen without hesitation, and once more, I saw Hailey, the person I had longed for day and night. But it was too late for regrets. I had already disturbed the peace she should have had. Now, all I could do was conceal this horrifying truth to prevent her from realizing she was dead. If she ever discovered the truth, I stopped myself from imagining further. I couldn't begin to fathom, nor did I dare to picture, how cruel and terrifying terrifying that would be. So instead, I started painting a dreamlike future for her, trying to describe a beautiful life. Hailey, the number of readers for my novel has now reached 1.2 million. During peak weekends, my daily income can exceed 40,000 yuan. She smiled. I know, I told you. I've been keeping up with the website where you post your novels. Of course, I've seen your reader numbers. Plus, with my professional instincts, I can estimate your income. Then I realized something surprising. The black box could connect to the internet through a dedicated line provided by the Academy. This meant that even though Hailey was dead, she could still access external information. That made me even more cautious. I smiled and said, though it's not stable, this income should be enough to secure our future, right? Even if your parents demand $1 million or $2 million for the betrothal gift, I can afford it now. And in the future, we can buy a home in a good school district, ensuring a better future for our kids. A strange light seemed to flash in Hailey's eyes. She teased, dream on. You haven't even proposed yet. Who said I'd marry you? When the time was almost up, she even gave herself an excuse. My boss is calling me to an online meeting. I have to hang up now. I suspected that this was a system directive, implanting a reason in her subconscious. I quickly realized a problem. Since she could access the internet, I had to resume updating my novel as soon as possible. After all, I hadn't updated for over 20 days. If I didn't, she might notice something was wrong, or even suspect why I couldn't be by her side. So, I opened Word and started writing furiously. Not only did I have to resume updates, but I also needed to catch up on the chapters 1/0'd. When I was ready to get back to work, I suddenly discovered a fatal issue. I had been away from writing for so long that I'd forgotten what I'd written before, and I never had the habit of writing an outline. It took me an entire day to quickly skim through the previous chapters, all 900,000 words of them. Even speed reading required a significant amount of time. By the time I finally remembered the plot and the hidden threads I had planted earlier, it was already midnight. There was no choice. For Hailey's sake, I had to push through. I stayed up all night, furiously typing at nearly 50 words per minute. This wasn't just copying from a draft. It was pure creation. Typing 50 words per minute meant 3,000 words per hour. I wrote until dawn. Then I was dumbfounded. The internet was down. I couldn't upload anything. Frustrated, I called the service provider, only to receive an infuriating response. Due to construction in the area, both wired and wireless networks would be unavailable for 20 days. Even the mobile network base station was being relocated today. Damn it, but that wasn't the worst of it. Right after I hung up the phone, a health worker arrived and sealed my door. The community had reported a COVID outbreak, and all residents were now under strict home quarantine. Even the apartment entrance was sealed. I started to panic. To prevent Hailey from noticing anything unusual, I needed to use the wireless network before it was completely cut off to upload the chapters. But the moment I turned on my mobile hotspot, my phone lost its signal entirely. When it rains, it pours. Just my luck. And yet, the coincidences didn't stop. The screen on the black box lit up, displaying incoming call request. Answer: Hailey could initiate a call with me? This black box had such a feature? Surprised, I pressed the answer button. On the screen, she looked much better than yesterday, less haggard and more at ease. It seemed my reassurance had comforted her. I felt a bit relieved and happy. Hubby, Hailey calling me hubby, was a clear sign that her mood had improved. I returned her warmth with a cheerful smile. Why are you calling me so early today? Hailey said, the people from the academy told me. They found a test subject. Our project might soon enter the trial phase. Although I only contributed a small piece of code, it still carries my effort, but I can't seem to feel happy about it. I'm worried. If the test subject realizes they're dead, wouldn't that be unbearably cruel? It's like being a brain in a vat. My heart sank. She had thought of this possibility too. I was terrified she might dwell on it further, so I quickly changed the topic. That's amazing news. I can't wait to hear more about your results. Tell me all about it when the time comes. I'll incorporate the concept into my novel. It'll definitely captivate readers. Hailey's smile curved like a crescent moon, just as enchanting as when she was alive. She said, I've made progress. What about you? Seems like you've stopped updating for a while. Slacking off? Be honest. Why haven't you been updating? Are you having too much fun traveling to care about your writing? Oh no. Does she suspect why I haven't gone home? I awkwardly laughed. You're overthinking it. I wrote tens of thousands of words just yesterday, but I couldn't upload them because the internet's down. As I said this, I suddenly realized I'd made a logical mistake. Hailey didn't know she was dead, so she would assume we were chatting via video. If my internet was down, how could I still talk to her? I quickly changed the subject. My laptop's Wi-Fi card broke, so I can only use a wired connection. How about this? I'll send the chapters to you via WeChat, and you can upload them for me? Sure. Hailey agreed happily. I immediately grabbed my phone and then froze. The base station here had been dismantled too, so my phone couldn't connect to the internet either. And even if it could, she was just a preserved memory, not an actual person who could receive files on WeChat. Damn my quick tongue. Lying really does lead to more lies. What should I do? Seeing a trace of doubt on Hailey's face on the screen, I grew increasingly anxious. I couldn't let her feel something was wrong. In a moment of desperation, I had an idea. Hailey, how about this? You know my novel is a romance, right? The female lead is based on you. How about I read it to you while you type it out? Hailey looked startled and said, Huh? You mean reading love stories to me every day? Isn't that a bit too cheesy? It seemed I had succeeded. Her attention shifted, and she didn't question why we could still have a video call, even though my internet was down. Maybe the system had some subconscious safeguard to prevent such risks, but she wasn't wrong. Reading out loud a romance novel to someone face to face was undeniably embarrassing. Even though we'd been in love for 3 years, I still felt ashamed, but there was no other way. This plan had two benefits. First, she would think I was safe and sound. Second, it would give her something to do, so she wouldn't feel bored in the virtual space created by the machine. I could only laugh loudly to hide my embarrassment. How could it be cheesy? If sweet talking is cheesy, I'm willing to be the most shameless romantic out there. Hailey squinted her eyes and smiled. All right then, start reading. As expected, women love hearing sweet words. I cleared my throat and began reading the text on my laptop screen. When Rock woke up, the left side of the bed was still warm, but Lily was already gone. He called her. Ching Ching, what time do you get off work today? I'll come pick you up. On the other end, Lily's soft and sweet voice replied, Wow, you're picking me up? That's so nice. I'll be out of the office at 6 sharp. Rock chuckled. Aren't you worried about clocking out early and getting caught by your boss? Lily retorted, It's Valentine's Day, silly. Even the manager plans to leave early. He won't care about me. Valentine's Day was not just a holiday for Rock. It was also the 3rd anniversary of the day he met Lily. From Lily's shopping cart, he saw that she had secretly prepared the latest MacBook Pro he'd been eyeing for a long time. Rock spent the morning getting himself an expensive new haircut and the afternoon buying a sleek suit from the mall. He wanted this Valentine's Day and anniversary to be unforgettable for Lily. At 6 p.m. sharp, Rock appeared at Lily's office with a bouquet of roses. The moment Lily stepped out, she dashed into Rock's arms, her smile as radiant as the sun. Wow, you're so punctual. Are those flowers for me? Rock teased. The flowers aren't for you. Lily pouted. Then who are they for? Some vixen? Tell me and I'll slap her. Rock gently caressed her cheek. Why slap her? The flowers are for both of us, to decorate our little world. But this is just for you. He withdrew his hand, revealing a small box in his palm. Lily blushed. There are so many people here. Please don't propose in public. It's embarrassing. I mean it. Let's do this in private. Rock laughed. In private? Do what? He lightly pressed the box's button, and the lid popped open with a snap. Inside was a diamond ring. Not big, but crystal clear. Lily's face turned even redder. She stammered awkwardly. Put it away, quick. It's not that I don't want to marry you. I just don't want it to be public. Rock shook his head. This ring is just for you. I know you're not ready yet. When you give me my ring in return, that's when it'll be our wedding ring. And then we'll do it publicly. Pfft, you perv. Publicly do what? The plot moved forward in a calm, meticulous manner, detailed but without any drama. On the screen, Hailey's fingers flew across the keyboard, recording every word I spoke. But I didn't finish reading. Hailey looked up, her face flushed, just like Lily's, and said, the manager noticed I haven't logged in yet. I need to get on the OA system right away. Remote work is such a hassle. I glanced at the time on the screen, 39 minutes and 42 seconds. I smiled and said, Go ahead. We'll continue tomorrow. Sigh. The system indeed has a protective mechanism, actively concealing certain truths. But the more it does this, the more anxious I become. Because having a protective mechanism means there's a risk. If Murphy's Law applies here, I didn't dare think further. The internet was down, and with the pandemic, the community was locked down. It felt as if the entire world had lost its meaning, except for waiting to talk to Hailey. When another morning arrived, I couldn't wait to press the call button. Hailey looked better today. It seemed she was adapting to the virtual world right. Before I could speak, Hailey excitedly said, Our project made progress today. We successfully communicated with a cognitive entity. I feigned indifference and teased her. Oh, Hailey looked surprised. That's it? Just oh? I laughed. Of course. Aren't you, as my ghostwriter, supposed to first tell me how the novel's metrics improved after resuming updates? Hailey playfully slapped her forehead, looking lively and mischievous, just like the Hailey Hailey, I remembered. I was delighted. It seemed she was truly recovering. Hailey smiled and said, "You're amazing. Yesterday's readership increased by 200,000. Daily income hit a new high, over 50,000. I reminded her, don't get too excited. That kind of income is unstable and fluctuates a lot. What are readers saying? Hailey scrolled through her phone, clearly looking for comments. There are lots. Look at this one. Finally, you've updated again. I've been dying waiting. Another one says, I just love this sweet, romantic daily life. No angst, please. No earth-shattering drama. Just give me endless fluff and sugar. I interrupted her. I'm planning to give you a gift. Hailey rolled her eyes curiously. A gift? Are you planning to give it to me when you come back from your trip? Why not surprise me instead of telling me? That little expression of hers. I loved her to death. That moment, I almost felt like she was still alive, right here by my side. Sigh. Why did that accident have to happen? I wish so desperately to see her alive again. I forcibly suppressed my grief. It's not a physical gift, haha. I'll tell you in a few days how to receive it. Hailey responded with an, oh, I bet it's another love letter or something like that. She guessed right. I feigned surprise and asked, what, you don't like it? Hailey shook her head. No, you keep giving me sweetness, and I keep enjoying it. I'm not afraid of cavities. She was already acting as she did when alive, even playfully teasing me. I knew she could never truly come back to me, yet I treated her this way, in the cruelest way possible. I was the biggest jerk in the world, overcome by emotion. I couldn't help but say, I miss you. I can't wait to see you again. Hailey seemed a little sad. She nodded, me too. Suddenly, her eyes lit up, as if she had just remembered something. Hey honey, I'm pregnant. Do you remember what we did before your trip? That time in my bathroom, I nearly cried. How could you possibly be pregnant? Why would you create such a scenario for yourself? You must have been too lonely during your slumber. I forced a smile. That's amazing. Wait for me to come back, and I'll show you how well I can take care of a pregnant woman. You'll see the gentlest man in the world. Tears streaming down my face. I dragged out all the bedsheets in my home. One by one, I twisted them into ropes and tied them together with firm knots. I had to escape. I needed to leave immediately, at once. Even if the community was locked down, I had to get out, no matter the cost. I couldn't wait any longer. I needed to go find the people at the Academy of Sciences. I had to tell them that this experiment was too inhumane. I needed to make them find a way to bring Hailey back to life. Since you can transfer her consciousness, you should be able to truly resurrect her. Fortunately, I live on the 5th floor, so it's not too high, and the bedsheets in my house were just enough. I opened the window and then closed it again. No, the security guard is around during the day. I plan to carry out the action at night. When the mind is filled with great expectations and goals, every second of waiting becomes an unbearable torment. Hailey's expression when she told me she was pregnant kept flashing before my eyes. The anticipation and tenderness she showed, it felt like a dagger to my heart, cutting me deeply, stab after stab, leaving me bleeding emotionally. At midnight, I couldn't wait any longer. I tied the rope to the leg of the table, then threw the other end out the window. Next, I dragged my leg, which was in a plaster cast, down the rope. The pain in my leg was excruciating, but compared to the hope of resurrecting her, it was nothing. But I still overestimated myself. After all, I was just a reclusive guy who typed words. My physical abilities were far worse than I had imagined. The rope loosened. I fell from the 2nd floor. I saw the stars spinning, and the world gradually faded to darkness. My last thought was, please don't send me to the hospital. Make sure you take me home. Hailey is still waiting for me in the box. I didn't know how long I had been asleep, but when I woke up, I was still in my own home. Fortunately, I hadn't been sent to the hospital, probably due to the pandemic. My leg hurt, but other than that, there was no other problem. The screen of the black box lit up, and Hailey was calling me. I scrambled to sit up, pressed the answer button, and then dragged a chair over to sit down. She couldn't see my leg. As long as I pretended I was fine, Hailey's face was full of worry. Honey, why do you look so pale? What happened? I chuckled awkwardly. It's nothing. I just didn't sleep well. It's fine. Don't worry, she anxiously said, but I've been calling for 2 days. And you never answered. What's going on? I quickly tried to cover it up. It's really nothing. Maybe I just didn't hear the calls. I could tell she was about to cry. I guess she must have wanted to ask when I'd be home, so I preemptively closed off her question. The hotel I'm staying at found confirmed cases, so they've locked it down. But don't worry, I have food and drink here. I can take care of myself. It's just that it might be a little longer before I can go home. Hailey sighed sadly. You must take care of yourself, okay? For our child, you must be careful. You still have haven't named him." She mentioned the child again. I quickly changed the subject. "How's our novel going? It's been 2 days since the last update. Are the numbers still okay?" Hailey shook her head. "The readership data is stable, although the income is indeed fluctuating a lot. The past few days have only been a few thousand, but it's still very good. We didn't really stop updating, since we still had some stored chapters." I thought to myself, the time she couldn't contact me these past 2 days, she must have suffered so much in that lonely, cold virtual world. I must warm her up as quickly as possible. So, I began reading the next part of the plot, which was about Rock and Lily having a sweet date at the amusement park. It's called a plot, but in reality, there's nothing dramatic, just a continuous stream of sweetness, hugs, and closeness. Not only is this what the readers love, but it's also a story from my own past with Hailey. I recreated every detail. As I read, it felt like we were back in that incredibly sweet and warm afternoon. The sun was shining brightly. Her smile was like a blooming flower. As I read aloud, Hailey typed on the keyboard, tears flowing down her face. How could I not feel heartbroken too? But I kept my voice steady, striving to keep it from trembling, and I worked hard to keep a smile on my face. But I knew it wasn't a pleasant sight. Even with a smile on my pale face, it must have been bitter. 2 days passed, and I found that my leg hurt more and more, to the point that I could no longer move it. I also felt weak all over, and my body was cold to the bone. I knew it was an infection from the wound, but I couldn't cry for help. There was no signal on my phone, and the network was down. What was worse, after they discovered my escape attempt, the window had been nailed shut. I couldn't even scream for help. Fortunately, I had water and instant noodles at home, so I could still take care of myself and not starve. During the video call, Hailey asked again what had happened, why I seemed to be getting weaker and weaker. I just told her I was facing a creative block and hadn't been sleeping well. She comforted me, saying, "It doesn't matter, as long as you're safe. Everything's fine. Whether we make money or not doesn't matter." I told her it wasn't about the money. That book was the culmination of our 3 years of love, and I wanted it to have a beautiful ending. Hailey cried again. This made me feel guilty. She was already suffering so much, and it was all my fault. Why did I keep hurting her like this? I finally made up my mind. I couldn't keep torturing her. I had to contact the Academy of Sciences as soon as possible and make them find a way to bring Hailey back to life. Since I couldn't reach out to the outside world, then let them come to me. I limped to the kitchen, blocked up all the drains, and turned on the faucets. The water quickly filled the sink, overflowing onto the floor. I hid behind the sofa, watching the water cover the floor, flowing everywhere. I could even hear the creaking sound of the wooden floorboards swelling from the water. The neighbors downstairs would surely call the property management to fix it, right? As long as I could see someone, even if I couldn't escape, I could at least borrow a phone. After all the commotion and with the high fever, I slipped into a faint. When my consciousness returned, the door was banging loudly. I rushed to the door. It must be the property management people, but it wasn't. The person standing at the door was someone I recognized, one of the technicians who delivered the black box to my house. I was stunned. "Why are you here?" he said. "We detected an alarm from the experimental device, and since we couldn't reach you, we came to check what happened." I understood. The neighbors downstairs didn't contact property management. Whether no one lived downstairs or because the waterproofing was too good, it hadn't alerted them. Instead, it was the black box being soaked in water that triggered an error code, which was uploaded through the dedicated network to the Academy of Sciences server. My heart sank. I hadn't expected this. I didn't realize that such high-tech equipment wasn't waterproof, something that even phones could manage. Could it be that, Hailey? I grabbed his collar. "Go check, hurry. If you can't fix the black box, if you damage Hailey's soul, I'll make you pay." His reaction to my outburst wasn't surprised. He seemed used to it. He smiled gently. "Don't worry, everything will be fine. It's just an error code reporting to the server. We have to inspect it as part of routine protocol." I released him and immediately pulled him in front of the black box. "Quick, check it out." I didn't know how he debugged it, but after he tapped his handheld terminal, the black box entered debug mode. Lines of code appeared. I couldn't understand any of it. I asked him, "What is this? Is there any problem?" He wiped his face. "The water I had splashed on him. It looks fine. It's just still in the sleep phase. You can contact her at 8 a.m. tomorrow." I was furious. "It seems normal?" "What do you mean by seems? As an expert from the Academy of Sciences, how can you say such vague things?" I demanded a definite answer. He sighed, a hint of pity in his eyes. "Sir, you should know that she's already dead, right? This is just an experimental test. If you get too deep into the role, it's not going to end well." "You're talking nonsense." "What do you mean too deep into the role and end well?" I grabbed his collar again. "If you have the ability to make the dead speak and think, then you can bring her back back to life. I demand that you bring Hailey back." He didn't resist, allowing me to shout and scold him. It wasn't until I ran out of breath that he sighed and shook his head. "To be honest, I think this is a cruel experiment too. I fully understand your feelings, but there's nothing we can do. There's no technology in the world that can bring the dead back to life. Even this black box, it's not really you talking to the dead. Do you understand? Not really? Then who is that person in the screen? I've been in a relationship with her for 3 years. Don't you think I know who she is? Calm down. It's meaningless to get upset. The box just reads the biological information stored in the brain and simulates it. What you're talking to is a machine. There are no brainwaves involved. She's dead. Do you understand? As time goes on, the body will deteriorate more and more. Eventually, there will be a day when it's beyond repair. Calm down. I'm not calming down, you fool. I don't care about your nonsense." Angry to the extreme, I grabbed his tool bag hanging from his waist and recklessly smashed it at him. I didn't even think about what consequences this might have. He screamed and covered his head, fleeing from my house. I wanted to chase after him, but the door was slammed shut. I kicked the door, cursed angrily, but it was all in vain. I heard the sound of security outside nailing the door shut. During the pandemic, they wouldn't let me out. The fury acted like a stimulant, like a battery. When its effect faded, I felt weak and cold again. The fever caused by the infection began to devour my thoughts once more. The outside was completely silent. I still hadn't broken through, and the problem wasn't solved. I don't know how long I slept, but when I woke up, I felt weaker, but everything else seemed fine. Even the floor had dried. The screen lit up, and Hailey's call came through. From the sofa to the black box, less than 3 meters away. It took me half a minute to answer the call. Hailey looked anxious, but wasn't I the same? Before she could speak, I hurriedly said, "Great, you're okay. It seems the box is indeed waterproof." Her face showed an expression of panic. "Box? What box? Crap, I misspoke." I quickly laughed it off. "Yesterday, the hotel delivered a little cake, saying it was to satisfy our cravings. I accidentally dropped it in the sink, and I didn't expect the cake box to be waterproof. It was ridiculous. Any person with an IQ over 3 would immediately doubt it, but Hailey didn't question it. I wasn't sure if it was the system's protective mechanism. I reminded myself again to be careful and cautious when talking to Hailey. Hailey sighed and said, "I haven't been able to contact you for 3 days. I was so worried something happened to you." Oh my, I slept for 3 days? From the conversation, it seemed like her next question would be about when the quarantine would end. So I took the initiative to explain, "I'm fine, just the communication is poor here. Yesterday, I received a notification saying that in 14 days, the quarantine will be lifted, and I'll come back to see you as soon as possible." Hailey looked disappointed, worried. She had been lonely for so long. It was understandable. I started reading my novel to cheer her up, but this time, she didn't brighten up as she usually did. Her face was full of worry. I suddenly realized something. I had slept twice, and considering the time, the box's lifespan was running out. If I couldn't bring Hailey back to life, then I'd have to start preparing Plan B. No matter how unwilling I was, this was the harsh reality I had to face. I needed to convey my intentions. So, when Hailey contacted me again, I began to raise the knife. I had to start the torment. Everything was perfect, but it all shattered with one phone call. When tragedy is about to strike, it never gives you a warning, nor prepares you for it. "Miss Lily, is Rock your boyfriend? This is the People's Hospital. He's had a car accident and is now in the ICU." The phone in Lily's hand slipped to the ground. She didn't even know how she got out the door, how she took the cab, or how she walked into the hospital. When she saw Rock covered in tubes and heard the beeping of the heart monitor, she couldn't even cry. The world was spinning. She barely held onto the bed frame and whispered, "Honey, you." She couldn't ask how he was, how she wished Rock would suddenly sit up, laugh loudly, and say, "I was joking. I'm fine. Haha, got you." But no miracle came. Rock's face was pale, unmoving, as if he were dead. Hailey interrupted me, her voice trembling as she questioned, "Why? Why did you write this? The last chapter was so sweet." "Why?" "Of course, because even in the novel, I would rather be the one who dies. I want you to live." I forced a smile again. I just thought that after writing a sweet, daily romance story, it's about time to wrap it up. Also, I've been hitting a creative block lately, and it's been hard to deliver the expected quality. It's time to finish it. Finishing now will help maintain a good completion rate, and once finished, the AI will keep distributing valuing it based on completed reads, so we'll keep getting revenue. Hailey lost her temper. She slammed her hand on the table and shouted, "No, no way. I won't let you finish it, and I won't let you kill Rock. I don't care if there's income." I comforted her. "It's fine. If the readers react well, I can still write an extra chapter, or maybe not kill Rock off, leave an open ending, and then release a second part for another round of earnings." Hailey still didn't believe me, and she kept angrily complaining about me. This was our first argument since she died. Sigh. I blamed myself again. Why couldn't I make her a little happier? This conversation ended unpleasantly, and I couldn't sleep all night. I really couldn't think of any way to escape. Even if I did escape, I couldn't bring Hailey back, and my own body was growing weaker. I sat there motionless until dawn. Sunlight filtered through the cracks in the wooden boards covering the window, casting mottled light and shadow on the black box. What was that? Is there a leak? I saw the shining reflection. A sinking feeling hit me. Crap, could the box be broken? The water stain from last time had already dried up. Could this water stain have come from inside the box? I crawled over with all my might. Sure enough, the source of the water stain was at the bottom of the box. What should I do? What should I do? I couldn't contact the Academy of Sciences. I couldn't call them to fix it. No, I must figure out what's wrong. I remembered that I had once grabbed a toolkit from the staff. That must be used for repairing the black box. I held onto the wall and climbed up, moving one leg at a time to the back of the box. Like with refrigerators, there are usually screws at the back for repairs. Sure enough, as I groped around, I found several very fine and hidden 9-sided screws. They had designed the screws this way to prevent anyone from opening the box without permission. You had to use their tools to unscrew them. My hands shook as I unscrewed each one with the screwdriver. I had a bad feeling. Hailey's body was inside the black box, soaking. I was afraid to see her tragic state, but I also longed to see her again, the real her. The thick bottom shell fell onto the floor, and in that instant, my world collapsed. I saw a glass tube filled with formaldehyde, and inside it, a corpse with its eyes tightly shut, its head covered with densely packed electrodes. That body was mine, not Hailey's. In that moment, I understood why Hailey didn't suspect, why she never questioned the obvious lie that I was at the hotel while the video showed I was at home. How could she not know such a blatant lie? I also understood why the network was cut off, why the neighborhood was sealed, and why I couldn't ask for help, because subconsciously, I knew I wasn't in the real world. I knew I was already dead. How could the me in the box connect to the external network? I also understood why Hailey could release works, because she was the living one. I understood even more why she was so angry when I wrote Rock's death, because that was the truth. The one who died in the car accident was me. I was the one driving the car, with Hailey sitting in the passenger seat. It turned out that the so-called Academy of Sciences staff told me that memory would be lost. That was my subconscious telling me that I had altered my own memories. Hailey's project was really just reminding me, telling me that the black box's lifespan was 40 days. So, tomorrow is the 40th day. I will fracture. I will be injured, because my subconscious is telling me it's time to say goodbye. Time's up. But Hailey, I still have things I want to say. But Hailey, tomorrow, I might not even have the strength to click the screen. My app shows that the black box has only 1 day left of usage. I regret it. Why did I ever encourage Rocky to sign that experiment agreement? Why? This is so cruel to him. I didn't sleep all night and had no mood to groom myself. Every morning at 8 a.m., it's the time the black box can operate. It can only run for 40 minutes. I don't know how I managed to get through it. All I could think about was Rocky's haggard appearance and the sorrow and frustration he felt when I killed off Rock. Even though he's already dead, he wished it had been him who died and that I could live on. But how did I treat him? I'm in utter despair. Life has lost all meaning to me. If it weren't for the little life inside me, I would have followed Rocky. That would have been my way of taking responsibility for my mistakes, of mourning our love. The clock turned to 8 o'clock. I rushed to the black box with the fastest speed I've ever had and pressed the call button. The busy tone seemed so long. I counted to 400. Still a busy tone. I begged you, Rocky. I begged you. Talk to me one more time. Just one last time. I counted to 600, then to 800. The screen dimmed, so I woke it up. I kept clicking and counting numbers, counting until 12:15. I had known Rocky for 1,215 days, loved him for 1,215 days. Finally, he answered the call. In the screen, his eyes were bloodshot and even his lips were pale. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. No matter how unwilling I was, no matter how much I denied reality, I still knew one thing. The real moment of farewell was coming. This was our second and final goodbye. I bit my lip, wanting to capture his last image with my eyes. Rocky spoke in a weak voice. Hailey, my time is running out. I may not last the 40 minutes. My world is collapsing. I had had never cried so helplessly as I did today. I couldn't control my tears. I wanted to leave him with a perfect last impression. Rocky tried to smile, tried to comfort me. I don't regret it. Even if I only got 40 more days, it's the best gift for me. Don't blame yourself. I nodded like a puppet, then shook my head like a rattle. I couldn't speak. My mind was nearly blank. This is my final gift to you. Hailey, remember the ending of our story? I placed my hand on the keyboard. Rocky really died. No miracle happened. As Lily wept uncontrollably, her phone buzzed briefly. Even without looking, she knew it was an email push. Lily and Rocky's souls were deeply connected. They didn't need words, not even eye contact, to understand each other's thoughts. She knew this must be the email Rocky had scheduled, his letter from heaven. Lily swiped open the screen. With just a glance, despite the tears blurring her vision, she still caught all the information. Lily, my beloved, farewell. My bank card is linked to your mobile banking. All our royalties belong to you and our child. If I could speak to you after my death, I'd tell you. I want to give you everything. Please be well. The email had no format, just a brief note. As a creator, in his final moments, he had abandoned the obsessive attention to detail he once had about writing. On the screen, the background behind Rocky began to crack and blur. His world, just as he had said, was collapsing. I knew the system couldn't hold on anymore. It was in the final moments before complete breakdown. I could no longer suppress the overwhelming wave of emotions rising in me. Is this the end? Rocky, tell me this isn't the end. I will go to the Academy of Sciences to resurrect you. They can read your thoughts. They can bring you back. Rocky's gaze stayed on my face, and he patted the screen. This is the end. I shook my head. No, this isn't. The screen went completely dark. Everything vanished, including Rocky's soul. I didn't publish the final ending of the novel Letters from Heaven because I hoped Rocky was still alive, and I didn't want those who read the story to know he was really dead. The end. If you like Kitten's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.